Welcome to another fine episode of Couples Emporium. I am Lincoln, your host, along with Sandi, my wife. And today we are going to talk about emotional affairs. Is it cheating if it never got physical? So this is episode number 16. And if you're joining us for the first time, we just want to say welcome to you. This is a space where we look at relationship science and biblical principles, and we see how it mixes with faith to guide us in our relationships. So today, we're asking a question that many couples wrestle with, but do not always know how to answer clearly. Is it cheating if it never get physical? Sam?
That's a good question. And now the core theme is that an emotional affair can happen when emotional intimacy, secrecy, loyalty, and connection begin to shift away from the marriage and it's going towards someone else. This episode is going to explore what an emotional affair is, why it is so dangerous, how it develops, and how it damages trust, and what couples can do to protect or repair their marriage. Because many people assume that if there is no sex, no kissing, no physical contact, then it does not count as betrayal.
Doesn't count, huh?
Yeah.
All right, but emotional affairs can be deeply damaging because they involve intimacy, secrecy,
Yeah.
attachment, and here's a big one, divided loyalty.
Yeah. And sometimes the emotional betrayal hurts just as much or even more than a physical betrayal. Because not every friendship is inappropriate and not every emotional connection is innocent. Emotional affairs often begin subtly. The danger is not only what happened physically, the danger is what the connection is becoming relationally. So, what is an emotional affair, Lincoln?
An emotional affair is when a person forms a deep emotional connection outside the marriage that begins to take on the closeness, secrecy, or intimacy that should belong to the spouse.
And like I said, it may not be sexual, but it often includes sharing personal thoughts and feelings more deeply with someone other else than your spouse. Let me repeat that. Sharing personal thoughts and feelings more deeply with someone else than with your spouse. Turning to them first for comfort, validation, or understanding. Hiding the relationship or minimizing it. Becoming emotionally attached in ways that compete with the marriage. Comparing your spouse to the other person and protecting the connection instead of protecting the marriage.
I want to slow down to just dig into that hiding part that jumped out on jumped out, when you said hiding. How might a couple or how might a spouse hide that relationship?
They may not share any information with their spouse about the person. Let's say it's like a coworker. They may never talk about this person. They're sharing intimate details of their marriage with this particular coworker, and your spouse has no clue of what's going
So you
on.
say intimate details.
Yep, you have people that they can share. Again, it's not necessarily physical, but
Yeah.
they share, like, let's say they're having issues in their marriage. Instead of talking to your spouse about it, you're going to talk to the other person about it. Intimate details about your marriage.
So things that should be discussed at home and discussed
With your
within
spouse. Yep.
the confidence of privacy
Yeah.
of their marriage, that spouse is sharing that with another person outside of that marriage.
Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
wow, wow. You see, at that point, the issue is not only friendship, the issue is misplaced intimacy. And just think about that word for a second,
Yeah.
friend. Misplaced intimacy. And that's key right there. If it's misplaced, that means it's being placed or it's being confided in a person where it just shouldn't happen because this person is not a counselor. And
Exactly.
especially
Yeah.
where the spouse may have a liking, and then it may not start, as you said, may not start off to be a physical liking, could just be someone that we realize, you know what, this person is someone that is easy to
To
talk to.
talk to. Yeah.
And then it starts innocent, and then it starts to build. So the key insight here is an emotional affair is not defined only by physical contact. It is often defined by secrecy. And this is where we get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah.
Emotional exclusivity. Wow. And redirected attachment.
And why emotional affairs feel hard to define is because it's confusing because they often do not begin with bad intentions. You may just be, let's say you and your spouse get into an argument and you got heated and you go to work and you start, next thing you know, you start sharing with your male coworker, my husband and I got into a fight last night, or my wife and I, we got into a heated disagreement last night. And next thing you know, you start pouring out everything to that person. So it can start off with good intentions, not necessarily bad intentions. And it says here that it can start off as friendship, work connection, like I said before, ministry connection, because we've heard about church leaders falling into a situation like that. We've all seen on the news and on social media where pastors discovered to be having a sexual relationship with his secretary for years. And if you really sit down and talk to them, they would say it started off innocently.
So pretty much these kind of relationships are not sudden.
Yep.
They build incrementally,
Yep.
slowly, and as you said, it may start off innocently, but at some point, I would say that either one or both people start to feel something or
Yeah.
start to connect uh, on ways that usually when there's a connection that's developing, usually there might even be some physiological changes that people begin to notice. So at some point, they're going to notice, if not one, both parties are going to notice that there's something more between us.
I wouldn't say for women, no, because for women, it's mostly, I'm not saying women don't have like physical, it gets physical on the get go, but for women, it's usually emotional. A woman wants to feel safe, to be affirmed. That's what she's looking for in her husband. One of the things that she's looking for or looking forward to from her husband. If she's not getting that, then, and I'm not justifying it by no means, but she'll go to work, or next door neighbor, or some person some male that's going to listen to her. It says here that it can also start off as texting someone of the opposite sex for support, social media conversations, confided in someone during a lonely season.
Would you also say that, you know, something like this that begins innocently, one of the things that may contribute to this building, this budding closeness that's happening outside of that marriage is because they're also not communicating at home?
I'm sure that plays a part too. But usually, as I said, for women, it's more because usually when you hear emotional affairs, most of the time it's usually for a woman. For men, I'm not saying it's not emotional too,
Mm-hmm.
but it's usually emotional for a woman because, like I said, she wants to talk to someone, or she may not be getting certain needs are not being fulfilled from her
Mm-hmm.
spouse, from her husband. And like you just said, it could be that they're not communicating, but for some reason she can't communicate to this person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like then that the tendency around a lot of these developments is that there's something wrong or something going on with uh, the couple's communication or their patterns of communication that also would contribute to this, you know, relationship building and developing. So that is why people often say nothing happened.
Yep, exactly.
We were just talking. they just understand
Then,
me.
yep.
I would never actually do anything, and I think that understand me part is the fact that the person is just simply listening. Not so much as they necessarily even understand, but they're just giving
Yeah,
you
exactly.
a
Yep.
listening ear.
But a relationship can still cross a boundary long before anything physical happens. And with many emotional fears grow, many emotional fears grow because they are justified early instead of being confronted early. So the opposite happens. Instead of you start justifying it, you start reasoning in your mind, and you start trying come up with all these different justification very early in this emotional affair. That oh, he's easy to talk to. Oh, she's a great listener. And you start once you find yourself start justifying it, and you start seeing like it's okay, then confronting it is going to be oftentimes the opposite. You need to confront it early. Just as though you kind of justify it early, you need to confront it and say, you know what, wait a second. This person is not my spouse. I shouldn't be talking to them like this. I've crossed the line.
So would you say then that's like a warning sign for the individual that's engaged in this activity to start to reflect and to notice that I am I'm crossing that line, as you say. There's something going on that shouldn't.
Yeah.
So how do you know when a connection has moved from innocence to becoming inappropriate? And here are some of the possible signs. You hide texts, calls, or messages. And think about that for a second, friends. Hiding texts, calls, or messages. Why are we hiding these things? You delete conversations. You think about the person often.
Yeah. Gotta be mindful.
You look forward to talking to them more than your spouse. You share emotional struggles with them instead of your spouse. You feel emotionally dependent on them. You would feel uncomfortable if your spouse saw the full nature of the connection. And you start confiding in them about your marriage.
Yeah. That's a big, big,
Ooh,
big,
you
that's a
feel
big one.
defensive even when your spouse asks about the relationship if they're aware. And you compare the other person to your spouse. So some of these suggestions here, there's a lot of danger that I
Yeah.
see. A lot of danger. Sam?
What makes it inappropriate is not just how it started, but it's what it's becoming, or what as it progresses. That's what makes it really, really dangerous. A strong test is this: if a relationship must be hidden, protected, or explained away, it is already in dangerous territory. It definitely is.
So how might that look when you say if a relationship must be hidden, protected, or explained away? What do you think might be going on maybe in the wife's head, speaking from the standpoint of a woman?
If she's hiding, that means she is obviously getting comfortable with that gentleman. Well, we want to call him a gentleman.
Would you
but
say
with
that's
that
kind of like a
man.
defensive stance?
Yeah, you definitely getting defensive if you have to, because once you start hiding, then the justification starts, and if you're confronted, then you start getting defensive. That is a strong test.
You know, friends, as you guys are listening to this podcast, I just want to remind you how important it is to us. Not just that the fact that you're spending time here listening to our conversation, and this is probably resonating with you, but the fact that we would like you to just join us in helping us get this information out by not just subscribing, but sharing it with others that might be able to benefit from the things that you're hearing, and being a warning sign to someone that might be dealing with this very issue.
Yes.
So remember to subscribe, remember to like, remember to share, and remember to hit that notification bell so that whenever we release a video, you can be notified. So as we continue, why emotional affairs happen? You might say to yourself, emotional affairs do not happen in a vacuum.
No.
Possible contributing factors might be loneliness in marriage, feeling unseen or unheard, lack of emotional connection. And as I'm spouting these things, you can see, if not in your own relationship, you can see how these things can be possible, where people are just not connecting like they used to. And there's starting to be this separation between couples, unresolved marital conflict, contempt or criticism at home. And we've spoken about these communication styles more than once. Boredom. Boredom, you might say, yes. If you don't continue to pour into the marriage. And in one episode we talk about the very fact that the honeymoon stages, relationship experts may call it, I describe it as the beginning stage, because it should be that once we say I do, that's really the start.
Yeah.
The start. And I liken it to a team winning a championship. Winning a championship, yes, is a great feat, but the biggest challenge is, how do we keep the championship?
Yeah.
How do we keep this thing going? Because you don't want to get to this plateau and then you just fall back down. You want to continue to maintain this standard of excellence. So, ego and validation needs, maybe poor boundaries,
Yep.
digital accessibility, immaturity and self-deception, and wanting comfort without accountability are possible contributing factors, Sam.
Sometimes people are not necessarily looking for an affair.
That's right.
They're looking for relief, attention, validation, or emotional escape.
So even though these things may be, it's still not an excuse. So it does not excuse it, but it does help explain why emotional affairs often grow quietly.
And if deeper issues are not addressed, the marriage becomes vulnerable long before anyone admits that there is a problem.
So relationship science and emotional affairs. So when we think of relationship science, relationship science shows that emotional closeness, trust, and responsiveness are central to healthy marriages. And here's some talking points one might consider. Emotional intimacy builds attachment. People bond through vulnerability, consistency, and emotional responsiveness. So that's why it's so important that we're doing these things with our spouse or our intended. Secrecy erodes trust. When emotional energy is redirected outside the marriage, the spouse often experiences betrayal and insecurity.
Yeah.
So repeated turning away from the spouse and turning towards someone else weakens the marital bond. So affairs often begin emotionally before they become physical. And you've heard us talk about attachment styles
Yeah.
because when there are challenges to that relationship and you try to address it, but either both of you or one of you decide that, well, you know what? I'm so upset right now. I don't want to connect. So that attachment style will be like, right now I don't want to talk, but there is no time period given or suggested that, you know what? Can we talk this evening after work when we get in, maybe during dinner or right after dinner? Or can we set aside 15 minutes later? I just think that the way things have been lately, we've been real snippy with each other. So let's just set a time today when we are in a calm state that we can just begin to talk and just connect for about 15 minutes, not long necessarily, but 15 minutes where we can just focus on our relationship.
This is why people should not underestimate emotional affairs. Emotional intimacy is very powerful because it bonds people.
And if that bonding is happening outside the marriage, then the marriage is being deprived of something essential.
Yeah.
So here's some biblical principles to consider. Scripture calls us not only to avoid physical sin, but that we might guard our heart. Yeah. And it's talking about our minds because our minds are very powerful. The Bible says that it's desperately wicked. So suggested scriptures in framing. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 23 said, guard your heart, for everything flows from it. Everything. Matthew 5 verses 27 and 28 says, sin begins deeper than outward behavior alone. Ephesians 4 and 25 says for us as couples to speak truthfully. And Hebrews 13 and 4, honor marriage. In other words, honor the covenant of marriage. Marriage is not just simply a piece of paper.
Right.
Not just simply a legal document. And then the last one, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 7, love is patient and also it's faithful and not self-seeking. And I just want to repeat this one that I may have skipped over. Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verses 6 and 7 says, love is strong and it is covenantal. So love is a covenant and it is strong. The emotions that arises because of people's love for each other are very strong and should not be taken lightly. Say.
See, biblical faithfulness is not only about bodies, it's about hearts, intentions, loyalties, and boundaries.
So marriage is meant to be protected, not only from physical betrayal, but from anything that slowly pulls intimacy, loyalty, and trust away from our covenanted relationship.
Emotional affairs, I'm not even going to say can create damage, it will create damage. And to justify and say, but there's nothing physical happened, to me that's only making things worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because the longer you deny it, the more it's going to grow. If it's not confronted early, like I said a few minutes ago, then the erosion of the marriage is going to start early.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's no physical affair, emotional affairs can deeply damage a marriage. And ways that they damage a marriage can include they break emotional safety between you and your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
They create insecurity and comparison. They weaken transparency. They shift loyalty.
Wow.
They increase disconnection at home. They distort intimacy.
Wow.
And the big one is they make the spouse feel replaced, dismissed, or betrayed.
Are you hearing this, folks?
Yeah.
I just want to repeat some of these things. Weaken transparency.
Mm-hmm.
That's big time danger right there. Shift loyalty. Increase disconnection at home. So that's definitely telling you that communication is lessening. They distort intimacy. The spouse feels replaced. Look what it's doing to your partner.
Yeah.
And they feel dismissed and betrayed. Mm-hmm. So for many spouses, the pain is not only that their partner talked to someone else, it is that their partner gave someone else access.
That's right.
That should have been guarded within the marriage.
It's the feeling of being displaced emotionally, and that's we were talking in a previous episode about betrayal. That is gut-wrenching.
So how can couples protect their marriage? How do couples guard their emotional affairs? And here's some practical tips. Establish clear relational boundaries.
Yeah.
Do not confide in someone else in ways that compete with your spouse. And that's a big one. Be transparent with texts, DMs, and ongoing communication.
Yeah.
These are biggies. Do not nourish secrecy, address loneliness or disconnection in the marriage early. Build stronger emotional intimacy at home. Do not use work. Do not use ministry.
Yeah.
Do not use friendship as an excuse for inappropriate closeness. Keep the marriage relationship primary.
And also, this one is a big one. I know a lot of wives out there and fiancés and intended can understand where I'm coming from, especially as a woman. Honor your spouse's discomfort instead of dismissing it. So if your fiance or your wife comes to you and say, honey, I noticed that you're, a little bit too close for comfort, with such and such and such, a female person of the opposite sex. Don't just dismiss her and say, oh, I don't mean anything. Oh, I'm not trying to do anything. And she's the one that's actually kind of like being flirtatious. No, that's not the way to respond. Don't dismiss her.
Now, what if an emotional affair has already happened? If a boundary has already been crossed, the first step is honesty. So then here's some possible next steps. Begin by telling the truth. End the inappropriate connection and stop minimizing what happened. Rebuild transparency. Acknowledge the pain caused. And immediately seek counseling or wise support if needed. Rebuild trust through consistency and not through pressure.
Yeah. See, healing can happen, but only when the truth is fully faced. So if cheating, is it cheating if it never got physical? If emotional intimacy, secrecy, loyalty, and attachment have crossed marital boundaries, then yes, something serious has happened. Marriage is not only protected by avoiding physical, because marriage is not only just being protected by avoiding physical betrayal. And that's why we're emphasizing so much on emotional, because it's, you can't just justify and say, well, I didn't mean to touch her, or I didn't mean to caress his back. We're looking at the emotional side to it.
So marriage is protected by guarding the heart, honoring boundaries, and keeping intimacy where it belongs.
That's right.
An emotional affair may begin quietly, but it can deeply wound a marriage. What you protect emotionally matters just as much as what you protect physically.
Yeah, I agree.
So, in closing, take heed to, the things that we shared here during this discussion.
Yeah.
Try and make it a daily habit of connecting with your partner, because many things can be avoided when we are connecting daily. So if there has been a disagreement, don't detach. You want to come together. So your attachment styles are important. It's important that you guys pull towards each other and not away from each other. So this has been Couples Emporium, and we just want to say thank you for spending this time with us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that this episode has been a blessing to you. So remember, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. Hit the notification bell so that whenever we upload a video, you can be notified. And remember to like and share. This is episode 16. I am Lincoln, and this is Sandi. Have a blessed day.
And a wonderful week.